This session is the From Faculty Forward, How Professional Development Drives AI Across the Curriculum. And we're presenting how we collaborate at the University of Florida with 3 different groups that help develop professional development for AI. Whether you like it or not, AI is here. AI is here to stay. I know that's why you're here. But we also need to train people. And so how do we do that, and what are the different aspects? And I will ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Mackenzie.
I'm Mackenzie Donovan, the Associate Director at the AI Squared Center. I work with Hans. Almost 5 years ago, the AI Squared Center was founded and charged with building a plan and building into the infrastructure of UF AI across the curriculum. And we quickly realized that the best lasting, sustainable way to accomplish this was through faculty professional development. And so we quickly found our partners across campus, and they'll introduce themselves, and we've been on this path ever since, 4.5 years, something like that almost. And we partner all the time to build out professional development, but also all the AI education programs across UF.
And I'm Alexandra Bitton-Bailey from the Center for Teaching Excellence at UF as well. And we started several years ago, even I would say before Mackenzie joined the center, before the center was really a thing, thinking about how we support faculty in the space of AI, especially faculty who don't naturally see themselves there, right? So we believe deeply that that our faculty success translates into student success. And some of the ways that we really do that is by, building community and building connection and breaking down silos and developing programs that really help to encourage innovation and growth and thoughtfulness collaboratively and across disciplines. So in 2021, we had our very first FLC related to this, and FLC translates as a learning community. And ever since, we've had the opportunity to continuously partner with friends across campus who do different things and bring different perspectives to the table. So part of what we do is really take the research that's out there on teaching and learning, the research that's out there on AI and pedagogy and its possibilities, and translate it into things like, how does this apply to my 200-student chemistry course? And how do I make my students' lives better? So that's a little bit of what I do.
Hi, I'm Ryan Yang. I'm from the UF Information Technology Center for Instructional Technology and Training. And I will argue that I probably have the most fun job among all of us here. Well, because I work at the intersection of pedagogy and technologies, so I get to kind of develop in between, the theories behind teaching and learning, and also get to play with all the emerging technologies that's out there. And so my team and I kind of work with faculty, look at their teaching challenges, and try to look at how technology can resolve them and also assist them. And for AI, we are not looking at just using AI to help with course development or the course content creation process, but we are also looking into how AI can actually enhance the students' AI literacies, how we make sure that the lesson plans include AI, include different activities that teach students about AI and how they can use it in their subject matter, wherever they're studying. So that's kind of where we are. And working with Alex and Mackenzie, we put together quite a few programs that we're going to talk about in a little bit here.
Yeah, I would add that all the programs that we're talking about, I would say about 90% of them, we have co-created together by just continuing to reach out.
So you can't really have a panel with 3 people who work in pedagogy and technology without us making you all do something, right? I hope you expected that. I hope you came here expecting that we would make you do a little bit of the work and have a few conversations so that when you leave, you actually have something that you can take back home with you. That's the idea. So when we talk about our shared foundations, right, the work that we do together, it really always begins with these conversations that we have, or the, hey, I have an idea. That starts a lot of our conversations. I have an idea. Can we do this? And then we think about what the logistics are behind doing it. One of the models that has worked really well for us is our faculty learning community model, because we've found, and literature will tell you this, that adult learning happens best in community with connections across different areas. And it took us a while to master what that looked like at UF, right? Because one-off workshops are fine and they offer an opportunity for folks who only have a limited amount of time. But real transformative learning happens over time and with continued investment. So the model that we've landed on for our learning communities very much it starts with a session where we offer some learning. So we bring in our experts to share information, and then we do hands-on follow-up sessions. So it's a real contiguous involvement and engagement with our faculty over usually 2 semesters of every other week meetings and opportunities. And we found that works beautifully. So we have some stepping stones for people. So we have Harnessing AI for Teaching and Learning, which is our longest lasting faculty learning community that we started in collaboration with each other, and that really walks people through like ground zero. If they have no background in this space, and we always make sure that we have representation from across colleges and disciplines so that the ideas coming to the table are varied and diverse and really helpful. From then, we developed another learning community that takes the ideas generated there and turns them into educational research, and that's our AI Research and Teaching and Learning. And I will move this up higher because my friend Marco told me that I was not holding my mic right. Thank you, Marco. And then we also have been really intentional in acknowledging that not everyone has the time commitment necessary for that kind of every other week 2-hour meeting. So we have incremental pieces built in across the way. So we also intend to serve faculty not just from our institution, but everything that we do, our intent is to share it as broadly as we can. So I'll let Ryan share some more of our ideas.
Yeah, and we understand how fast AI is moving. We know that we need, for students to be successful, to talk about AI literacy among students, we actually first need to equip the faculty to have the fluency about talking about AI in their classrooms. So with Alex and Mackenzie, between the programs that we built, we try to make sure that we kind of tackle different modalities, meet the faculty where they are. Also, we need to cover topics that are a little bit outside just of the technology. Talk about ethics. We need to talk about privacy, security. I'm in IT, so security is very important for us. We need to make sure that whatever faculty are using is being risk assessed, for example. And then so that they're in a safe environment where they can experiment, they can work with the students to solve whatever the teaching and learning challenges they might be having. And to meet the faculty where they are, Alex has mentioned quite a few programs. We also do a Tech Bite series. These are very short formats. It's 1 hour, and it's very quick, it's very practical. We usually have a topic like talk about assessment with AI, talk about maybe we have a cookbook that we developed that has very short prompts that you can use to create lesson contents and other materials or classroom activities that you want to use. And we will try to make sure that whatever that we are delivering to the faculty are practical and that meets the needs of the faculty. I'm going to pass it to Mackenzie to continue.
All right. Well, one of the really big projects that brought us all together in this group is the quality enhancement plan that UF is required to do for accreditation. And we chose 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, AI across the curriculum. We're in year 2 of implementation, but this was really a catalyst for our collaboration across our teams. And this gave us not only a plan and an infrastructure across UF to build this into all of our systems and teams, but also the investment, the budget, to make this happen for 5 years. And having that was a real catalyst for our collaboration on many levels. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today were in the quality enhancement plan, and we're, working it out. We're making mistakes along the way. We're trying things. I feel like we often work like a startup, and I know that you don't hear that a lot in big institutions, but we really do, and we were given the space to do that so that we could try and fail and try again and get it right and collaborate and move on. So I think that the quality enhancement plan is really there to provide AI education to all students at UF regardless of their discipline. And that was a really key component and very different at the time when we announced it a few years ago. So we spend a lot of time on that, and part of that is professional development for our faculty.
What I want to emphasize is what Mackenzie is saying about try and try again. Everyone you really want to explore different models, and I want to let you all know that we are, as units, we are always so happy to hear from others who are exploring possibilities in their spaces. We put QR codes up for you to be able to access our individual websites so you can see from each of our offices what we have and what we offer. But with every iteration, we are always improving, changing, taking in feedback, growing the program, and rethinking what changes in circumstances and the world of technology translate as into the programs that we run. But it's that contiguous improvement, I think, that makes a huge difference in our programming, because it translates as always making the best available to our faculty. And I would argue also our graduate students, who are our future faculty, right? We leave our doors widely open. So this is your first activity, because I warned you, right? There was fair warning that everyone would have to do something. We have a couple of Padlets for you today, and hopefully these will translate as some ideas that you can take with you. Now, we shared a little bit about each of our office, and each of our office has core values and beliefs that we bring to the table when we develop new faculty and graduate student development, right? For us, it's really thinking about our faculty at every career stage. So we want people to get to the University of Florida and to know that from day one, we have their back. We are there for them from day one, making them feel welcome and like they have a space dedicated to them. And we want that feeling to last throughout their career, right? So at every career stage, with every starting point, with every availability and capacity for investment. So we really think about, what can we build for somebody who only has a few 30-minute sessions to dedicate? What can we build for somebody who wants to invest deeply? That. We also really, really think deeply about building community across our campus. I think Mr. Malachowski explained that it's the human in the loop that needs to stay and be maintained and really be gardened, really, in essence, like continuously grown. So we intentionally build that into everything that we do. All of our learning communities start with actually building that community, and we believe that as one of our core beliefs in developing professional development. So I would ask you to think what it is that inspires your professional development, and that could be, in relation to AI or otherwise, but it should, really be at the core, because as Elias mentioned, right, someday we're not going to be sitting here talking about AI this, AI that. It should still feed how you do professional development for your faculty and your graduate students. So, join the Padlet. Tell us what your core beliefs are.
I love the word or the phrase AI enhancement. I've heard that today. And
yeah, and I also see a lot of ethical use of AI. Innovation, faculty freedom. Students need to graduate with a level of AI literacy.
Yeah, I think one thing that we all try to kind of make sure that we align to at University of Florida, we also believe that AI is for everyone. And so that's actually in one of the guidance documents that we have, and we try to make sure that whatever we do can align with that, making sure the program that we design, that we remove barriers for people, and so that they can get better understanding how AI works for them.
Yeah, and I would add to that, a lot of meeting the faculty where they are is if they have fears, if they are worried of ethical implications, we're meeting them where they are in that conversation and having those conversations and talking about what are the implications of not offering this to your students as they're going off into the workforce.
And then the idea of responsible and ethical use is really important, but how do we build that in so that it's an individual faculty choice and a choice that's made based on your field and the applications that are meaningful there, and how do we translate that into language that's meaningful for students? So our idea is that these core beliefs help frame what you then grow in your space as your foundational faculty development. We'll talk a little bit more next about our building of alliances, because we are all relatively small centers, and we all believe that it's our collective expertise that is so much greater than our individual capacity to do anything. So it is because we partner not just with each other, but with everyone across our campus as much as possible, that we are able to build these kinds of sustainable, enriching activities. Because they do take a huge amount of time and effort, and really they're a labor of love to develop these things. Years and years ago, when our center was just a little baby center with 2 or 3 people, we really wanted to have and if you think about the number of faculty on our campus, it's huge. So how do we multiply the effort of 3 people to touch the lives of so many? And it's that discovery of partnership that made the huge difference. It made it so that we could build pathways for our faculty across the university. And so it also helps move people from thinking about, their own little space and island into really, we are all serving the mission of the university together. And that mission translates into the different pieces and bits of expertise we bring to the table.
Yeah, I would add to that, everything that we're doing, we're trying to build into existing infrastructure and partnerships so that when we have one initiative, when we have efforts going out, that it's sustainable, that it moves on past any one thing our center is doing or even together.
Yeah, and it's about finding the right people to work together to make sure that with we call about shared belief and foundations, and I believe we found one another because we all believe that this is the right thing to do, and it's not about competition too. I mean, I know in some campuses that there are different units that they are almost competing with one another, but what we believe is that working together we can actually create something that's even better. And I'm an instructional designer background, so I understand that I can introduce technology without pedagogies. I understand that we need to work together in order to create the right programs. You shouldn't be using technology for technology's sake. That's one of my core beliefs. We want to make sure that when you're looking at AI technologies that apply in a way that makes sense, and you shouldn't use AI just because of AI, right? So I think we talk about that a lot in this conference. So we have one more activity that's coming up.
Yeah. I was going to add a little something to this idea. The other benefit to collaborating like this is that we're able to bring greater visibility to the things we build with each other, right? We only have a certain capacity for communicating, but when we multiply that, it's multiplied manyfold. So I think that's an important benefit to our shared partnership. My background is faculty. I've been teaching classes since 1998, and every setting that I taught in for the first time, this will age me, I promise. But anyway, I know you're like, it's okay. We're all old here. one of my first and my second and probably my third teaching experience, I got to an institution, I was handed a textbook, told where a classroom was, and told where the Rolly car television with the VHS tapes was, right? And that was and they were like, and you're fine. You know your field, you can do this. And I thought, I don't know that I can teach a bunch of undergraduates how to speak this language without any background. And I really see our roles as helping our faculty get to the table and our future faculty get to the table equipped to feel confident to help their students adopt these things or use them in their real lives. Like, I never want anyone to have that experience, to not feel like they have a whole team behind them for teaching and learning with AI and without AI. And that, I think, is the gift that we bring, right? So I'll let Ryan do the next activity for us.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of ask you to identify your potential partners on your campus. So this is another pattern activity. If you can take a look at the QR code, they will bring you to that. Yeah, and for example, like when we design the FLC, for example, that Alex have talked about, Alex kind of provide the foundation of the teaching principles that we have. And my staff and I kind of provide a little bit of expertise on the different instructional technologies. And we want to make sure that we bring different expertise to the table to make sure the program is successful. And we're going to have a few more examples later, but let's look at the activity here.
And I think, when we talk about this in regard to the FLCs, but we do this with our conferences, we do this with our workshops, we do this with our tech bites, where we think, who are our partners? And how can we make this better by bringing in those expert voices? And that sometimes includes not the people in our centers, but our faculty across our campus, who are really the experts and the voices we want to bring to the table. So for instance, on our campus, we have a program called the Passport to Great Teaching, which actually brings in experts from everywhere so that we have pathways for folks to develop that. And the partnerships there are so rich, and that's kind of what has fed everything that we have done as a center, but has helped us develop those partnerships.
Yes, libraries. Absolutely. We closely, all three of our teams, I think, at different times, closely partner with the libraries and the librarians and bring them together because they are the glue.
I like that somebody mentioned HR here as well, because, human resources on our campus does a lot of training and development too. So instead of duplicating effort, why not magnify effort by taking in and modifying what's already in existence?
And something we quickly learned that Alex touched upon was faculty experts across campus facilitating a lot of the professional development that we coordinate, and bringing in those expertise to talk about exactly where our faculty want to get, instead of having us do a training, translating what they teach. We bring them in. So I see faculty up there quite a bit. That's great.
Yeah, and I like the mention of the instructional designers and IT. I think that is definitely a good component to make sure that this works. And like I mentioned earlier too, that about making sure that we are working in a secure and safe environment. And also we have a lot of discussion around privacy with AI especially. I think those are important pieces. But I think one of the key, at least for us, is finding that yes person, right? And I think what works so great for us is that we just come together and we pretty much just say yes every time someone has an idea.
Yes.
And say, hey, let's make that happen.
Along with saying yes, though, it's important to build those partnerships with people that you also have relationship with, right? Relationships are really important in this, and the foundation of any relationship is trust. So when we come to the table, I totally trust that Ryan and Mackenzie's team have the same best interests at heart, that they bring a huge amount of wisdom to the table that complements mine, not not both competes, as you mentioned, but also helps fill gaps that I have, right? And are able to challenge these ideas. Because as much as, yes, we want to say yes, there is a right way of us saying yes and moving forward, and there is a way that could easily overwhelm or there's huge success in not getting something right the first time or in failing forward, as we like to say, but we have to do that with intent, right? There's careful intent. It's not just that we say yes. We think, do we have the capacity to do this with the people in our office? Who are the people in our office who can dedicate some time to this new idea or new initiative or new FLC? Because they take time, right? Who is going to be the point person? Who has the greatest level of expertise amongst our offices to be the point person for this particular endeavor? Because otherwise, just like in any course, if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, no one knows who to turn to when they need help or when they have a question or when something doesn't go right. So really carefully bringing in your partners, but deciding whose role is what in that partnership and how they're contributing is actually super essential.
We learned that along the way.
We did, actually. Sometimes we got it right, sometimes we didn't. And then we were like, okay, who's the instructor of record here?
But I think a lot of these combinations, it can fill those same goals. We just, finding the people that say yes and the skill sets that, in the reaching the audiences you're looking for, whether it's faculty, students, instructional designers. I think there's a lot of different ways to do this, and I see a lot of collaboration up there that would work just as well as our teams have with that same willingness and skill set.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect is also the willing to change. Now that we know that AI is going to change a lot of things what we do, how will we make sure that our staff also understand that they need to kind of grow with it? To do kind of a little bit of retooling of the staff to make sure that they are also fluent in AI, and how we train them so that they can pass on the knowledge to the faculty they work with, and how we make sure that we are all coordinated in that way. Because I didn't really have any additional resources, right? And I was doing a bunch of stuff already before AI comes to the playfield here. So how do I make sure that I shift my priorities? Understanding what the university's mission is, knowing that the AI initiative is an important mission for UF, and how we convince our peers, our colleagues to also make the jump with us.
And I want to dispel an idea that because I know it's probably easy to say, oh, well, you guys are huge, you can do this. But really, our teams are actually quite small. And many of the faculty and partners that we bring in, we don't bring them in because we promise or offer fellowships or financial contributions. Some of the things that we really work really hard to do is to recognize that effort, right? We don't, when we have somebody do a workshop for us, no one gets paid to do a workshop. They do it because they're so excited about what they've innovated and they're willing to share it. I just want to clarify that so there's no thought that there is some big, financial bucket that we have that we give away to people who are contributing. It's really very much about a willingness to share expertise. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to ask people to give their time, energy, and effort, I think one of the important things that we need to do is remember to celebrate that, right? It's very easy to get in our little hamster wheels and run this race without pausing at different times throughout the year to really demonstrate that we see and notice and value those contributions deeply. And I think that in itself is one of the rewards that's the most meaningful for people, is to be noticed and appreciated and cared for, and to know that you have their back, and to know that they'll get recognized for this. Our university cares that they are doing this. This is super exciting. So we like themes. We like things to be campy and fun, because who wants to be serious all the time for real, right? So yeah, you go. You're doing it.
Oh, you are.
Am I?
Okay. So we partner on everything, so we have to decide at any given point who's
Going to talk about
so
what?
We're really excited about a new project that is underway and almost complete called AI Adventure because, like Alex said, we make everything we do a little campy and fun because we enjoy doing it more, and we hope you do too. And so we have a 4-day in-person micro-credential at UF in AI and higher education that we teach in person. And we know that a lot of folks can't get to it. It's 30 seats at a time. The capacity is low. So we have been developing together because some people said yes, an online asynchronous version of that. And so there's 3 courses, like all of the credentials and a lot of the comprehensive professional development we do, we focus in 3 areas. The fundamentals of AI, what is it not, what can it do, what are its limitations? The ethical and policy aspects of AI, access, a lot of the things you all were listing up there, I was like, that's an AI Adventures. We brought faculty from across campus in their areas of expertise to do short videos and content. And so the second course is AI ethics. And then the third, so we do fundamentals, ethics, and application. And that application is in the classroom for AI Adventures. And for students, it might be in their discipline, when we use this model. But we're really excited, as you see in this really fun picture of us in our astronaut costumes, to kind of walk through this AI adventure and make it accessible, right, for anybody. And then there's more advanced sections in it, warp drives, that, for the more advanced folks to really dig in.
That was really fun to develop and to bring all kinds of folks in. So it was a really good yes project. Another area that we do a lot of work in is as I mentioned before, the learning community space. Our foundational learning community is called Harnessing AI for Teaching and Learning. We've distilled it to 1 semester where folks meet every other week. And 1 week, it's a learning experience where we talk about fundamentals or ethics or applications or chatbots. And the next week is really this exploration of applying it to your course. So our intent is always for folks to leave harnessing AI with actual content developed for their course that they showcase at the end of that FLC. And then they also have an opportunity to showcase it at our annual Teaching and Learning Conference. The goal is that this is a starting point, right? This is a starting point if you really want to apply it, because we have some other starting points that are just more like, let's dip my toes in the shallow end of the pool. And this is more like, I'm just going to do a cannonball. And then from there, folks who've taken the time to develop and apply this in their courses, we help them to collect data and to think about what that means for the teaching and learning community at large. How would they take that innovation, turn it into their teaching research, and then publish on that, whether at our Research and Teaching and Learning Symposium, where they are asked to present, because there's always a deliverable for our FLCs, and presenting at our Teaching and Learning or Research and Teaching and Learning Conference is part of being accepted to these. So AI Riddle is our step 2. Take what you've done and now share it even more broadly. So our model for AI Research and Teaching and Learning is based on 3 types of information sessions where we teach them how to be educational researchers, ideate sessions where we help them generate and develop their research ideas, and then deep feedback sessions where they bring in their developed ideas and get deep feedback on those so that it can be transformed into something that can be shared more broadly.
Yeah, and kind of last set of pictures, you see that's actually one of the very first projects that we kind of started working together. It's a collection of kind of video interviews of our faculty in different subject matters. And the reason why we did that was we have been starting the AI across curriculum kind of initiative a while back. And we want to make sure that we are able to inspire more faculty to talk about how they use AI, how are they utilizing teaching AI across what they do. And we kind of come together. and kind of start identifying faculty that we think are doing very interesting things within their subject matter expertise, and then looking at what kind of question and interviews that we would like to do with them, and provide kind of the resources to make it happen. We did a series of videos with them, and in the first year, I think we have 27,000 views on those videos, which I think as someone that has been working in the teaching, kind of teaching center for my whole career, we usually get a couple hundred views for any of our videos. So when we get 27,000 views for those videos, we were blown away by how successful that is. And it also is very interesting because I think it does inspire faculty to see what other faculties are doing. We actually got faculty knocking on our door and say, hey, can I also do one of those interviews? I want to be kind of featured. I think it helped with some of the tenure promotion process as well when they see themselves in one of these videos. And so I think that has been kind of a very interesting project for us to do. So.
Yeah, I encourage you all, if you're interested, they're like 2 to 3 minute videos. So they're really just like bite size. This is how I applied it in my classroom. And then you can dive deeper if you want to, but there's just very quick overviews and things you can use now.
Yeah. So we work together, but we also have some individual projects that we do. So I mentioned that we really think about faculty at every career stage, which means that individually we also have to offer some smaller bites that are digestible. So sometimes we like to talk about it like dip your toe in the pool, walk into the shallow end, do a cannonball, whatever it is. If that's the comparison you choose to use. So we have a series called Getting Started with AI. Getting Started with AI is a 4-workshop series that really just touches basically on foundations, course policies, assessment and activity. So it really just walks people through just getting some ideas. Very often they progress from something like this to something that's more in depth. We also do AI Teaching Sparks, which are little 30-minute lunchtime sessions that people can just jump in and learn one thing that they can use, right? If all you have the capacity for is 30 minutes and learn one thing, we've got you covered. And then we also do a big teaching and learning conference that is now 2 days. It's called Interface. Day 1 is always focused on the practical application. Somebody called it their teaching idea toolbox for the year, and it always has an AI track. And then day 2 is our research and teaching and learning day. So they get to come share their innovations there. And then we also, as I mentioned before, believe in celebrating and recognizing. And so we offer some teaching awards through our center. We also believe that the folks who work in our libraries and in our centers like Ryan do so much to support teaching across our campus, and their efforts should be recognized too. So we also have awards that recognize that kind of effort across our campus.
Yeah, and for my teams that I mentioned about TED Bites that we do, there's an hour-long, very focused problem-solving practical application of AI in teaching and learning. But we also provide a lot of web resources. So we have the prompt cookbook, which are very short prompts where you can use for creating contents and creating classroom activities. We also do a short series of AI in 5 videos. So because we know that faculty doesn't want to sit through like hour-long kind of presentations and workshops sometimes. They want things on demand. So we think 5 minutes might be where the market is. So just like YouTube, right? We're short time spans. So we created this AI invites, and hopefully these are very quick and easy things for faculty to pick up and be able to apply it in as they are creating their courses and designing classes. And being in IT, we also provide a lot of training on the different tools that we have access to. So we have the Navigated AI Suite, which are UF tools that there's a bunch of them that, we have chat, we have tutor, we have assistants, we have things that will let faculty use AI in a safe and secure environment. We also have access to Copilot, and so we have a series of training that are focusing on the different features. But as you all know that how rapidly AI is moving today, a lot of these trainings are only just for the time, right? Because they're going to be outdated in a couple of months as new features are rolling out. So the hard part is always how we make sure that we are be able to make changes quickly, be able to offer those opportunities to faculty, and also be able to kind of stay in touch with the latest development in AI. So we also do consultations, one-on-ones. So this is like if a faculty want to talk to any one of our instructional technologists to talk about how they want to apply AI into their teaching and learning process. Maybe they have a problem they want to solve and they think AI can help. We'll sit down with them. We'll talk to them one-on-one, discuss like what are the possibilities of different tools and platforms. We'll talk to Alex and see whether there are different strategies that we can maybe convince them to apply if we don't think that technology is the problem that will solve what they want to do. Because technology is not always the answer. Even though I'm in IT, but we do understand that technology is not always the answer. So maybe the teaching, the pedagogy need to change rather than the tools, right? So we definitely provide quite a number of resources, and we can definitely bring up the website later on again, and so you can take a look at some of the resources that we do provide. The Tech Bites, for example, we record that every session, so those recordings are all available online.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, at the AI Squared Center, like I mentioned earlier, we have a 4-day in-person training. So if you want to come hang out with us in Gainesville at the end of the semester, we have some spots still available. You'll be in a cohort of about 30, 35 people, and it walks you through the fundamentals, the ethics, and the applications in those days. And you walk out with something that you can add to your classroom right away. And that is all, it's co-facilitated by faculty across campus. So again, we do that partnership with faculty experts. We also, the AI Squared Center plays a role of being the hub for AI education. And so we bring a lot of groups together often. These partners, but also the libraries or external partners. When a number of you that are in here come to visit and hang out with us, which I've seen before, and we get to have those conversations. It's because we've created that space, at the AI Squared Center for that.
I think all of our groups also, we gave the QR code for our websites. I think you can find a lot of other things. I think the important thing is, instead of being an add-on, it's woven into the fabric of how we do faculty development or how we do training. So, for instance, student evaluations lives in my office. How do we weave that in? How do we weave resources that use AI that help faculty advance their practice, right? So we really think about it as a piece that's woven in and not a separate add-on, right? And I think that's really important, an important piece of it. So we wanted to give some time for both question and answer and one more little thinking activity for you all to do. So do you want to do the activity first, or do you want to do the Q&A first? Let's go ahead.
So we're giving your homework. You did all this work here, and it wasn't just for us to collect these ideas and be like, great, thank you. Those are great ideas. It's also for you to take back. So we would like you to, as your next steps, to remember what you kind of brainstormed today and identify who's one person you could reach out to this week to collaborate with. What's one core belief you could start that conversation with, a shared belief that that is also in their mission and in their work that they're doing? And what's one small collaborative experiment you could try together? It does not have to be a huge project. It can be a one-off event, but what is one thing that you could collaborate across campus on? And we encourage you to take that forward.
And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for sustainability and growth. And your partner may not be somebody inside your school. It might be somebody outside that you want to talk with and reach out and get some ideas from. So, and as I mentioned before, I'm sure you guys don't object, but I'm just going to go with, they can reach out to us anytime. I'm going to open the door for conversation for everyone. So we would love for you to ask us any questions that you have, or just share with us some of the things that you've grown and learned, because we are always learning. And I know we can get so much from what you've been working on as well.
So my question is, how do you get faculty to come and be involved and take advantage of all of this? Because we've put on all of these, sessions and whatnot, and it's the same 6 people that show up to every one. And everybody else is like, I wish I had the time, but I don't. So we're struggling with how do you get the faculty to take the advantage of all of these availabilities, even though they know they need to learn it, they still just feel overwhelmed and can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say one small piece that Alex mentioned earlier is that our collaboration helps us reach a wider net of faculty than any one of our centers individually.
And I would say, if at all possible, all of the trainings that are developed through the Passport to Great Teaching, through our partnerships, are woven into the tenure and promotion process, so they get recognition for that. I think that's important. And I think building trust from day one. So we help put together a new faculty orientation. So we're some of the first folks that they get to really work with and see. And you can see a lot of our faculty that are here presenting themselves. You can ask them. I think they feel like our centers are trusted friends, right? So I think those two, tenure and promotion, recognition, and building those relationships from the moment you walk in the door.
Yeah, and I will also add that we make it fun for some of the engagement that we have. So if you look at some of the recording of the past events, you look at the picture of the AI adventures, we try to make sure that we engage the faculty in a way that that is also fun for them. They're not just sitting there. It's actually more active learning in any of the sessions that we have. And if you look at the TED Bytes recording that I have on our website, you'll find that we do a lot of problem solving, like very practical problem solving with those sections. So they're not focusing on just like, oh, you can use this tool for that and this tool for that, but it's actually solving problem for them. Our attendance for those TED Bytes, which was surprised by us too, because before that we do a lot of emerging technology sessions on TED Bytes. We only get probably like 30, 40 people, like you mentioned, it's always those 30, 40 people. But for our AI sessions, we get hundreds. Sometimes we get a couple hundred people show up. The first one that we did, we get 400 people to show up, and we were blown away by that. But even the ones that we did recently, we get about 100 people to attend, and a lot of those are new faces that we have not seen before too. So making it fun, making it actually solving a problem for them, I think that's part of the key as well.
I actually have a question about your experience with cross-institution collaboration. What's one of the challenges you faced and how you solved it?
Part of the challenge is that we place a lot of emphasis on building relationship in long-term collaborations and doing that from a distance. Although Zoom is great, don't get me wrong, it's still Zoom, right? So I think sometimes that can be a little bit challenging, and we've worked to overcome that by creating, and I know everyone is rolling their eyes when I say this, but it's very intentional. We have an activity called Collaborating with Strangers. We didn't design it. It was developed by the librarians, so I can't take credit for that, but it's a great activity. And we have actually modified that activity as an online activity to really build that intentional relationship and trust from the start of these long-term collaborations. It's one of the ways that we do that. It doesn't solve all the problems. Even if we engage in distance long-term collaborations, we always build in opportunities to meet in person. So we have an FLC that we run with the Learning Well Coalition. They do an annual conference. We made it possible for the folks who are in there, whatever institution they're from, to meet at the conference and build, in-person opportunity for connection there. We also dedicate enough time to planning those. So we sit, the groups that are facilitators really sit together and think about this before. We don't just put together an FLC. We meet the entire summer thinking about what does that look like, what does that experience look like for our participants cross-institutionally. So for instance, we have 3 facilitators from different institutions and 2 facilitators from UF in there. So.
I would say, I'll add to that, we hold and organize 2 big events during the year. One is AI Days at UF, and that's internal for all of us to get together, students, faculty, staff, and talk about what we're doing across campus. And then we hold the AI Squared Summit. And having those focal points throughout the year to bring us together just facilitates that collaboration.
When faculty come to talk to us about the use of AI, mostly what they want to talk about is how to bolt it onto their existing pedagogy.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you help faculty see what's now possible and actually change pedagogy, and can you give some examples?
Absolutely. So for instance, my next big idea, which I know you're like,
She's
oh
announcing
no.
it here. I don't know it yet.
Well, we kind of touched on it, is, assessment has really needed a re-envisioning, right? What does that mean? And that can't be something where we take the old pieces and reapply them. We really have to sit down and think good and hard about what assessment means and looks like. What does an 85% mean if we're still going to use numbers? So we have to take it apart. We have to deconstruct that before we put it back together. And I think at the essence, when we do an FLC, that is what we're doing. We're not sitting there going, here, you can tack it on to what you are already doing. We're thinking, here's the sound pedagogy, here's some technology that might help you, but really, we just want to generate idea after idea of how we reimagine what this looks like in a new world for us and for our students, and how it reflects what people will actually be doing when they go out into their careers. And very much, it does not mean that you are learning one set of skills that you're going to be able to use and reuse forever. It means you are learning how to reinvent yourself continuously, right? And so I think the gift is helping people be comfortable with breaking things, or as Michelle Weiss said at the Learning Well Coalition recently, she said, we have to make an ugly baby before we make a pretty one. I thought it was a great expression. I don't know, that I was like, yeah, it's not going to work well the first go around. We just have to be comfortable with the discomfort of knowing it's not going to be quite right at first.
And that we're here to support as we're putting it back together. So we're deconstructing it, but they have support to put it back together. The other thing I would add is we have those uncomfortable conversations, or we're comfortable with them, about ethics and assessment all of the time, meeting the faculty where they are and having those conversations, because they're real concerns. And some of it is that we need more AI literacies or more tools, and others is yeah, that's a real concern and we all need to talk about it. So we don't ignore the ethical implications. And the other thing we bring up is students are graduating and going out into the workforce, and they're going to be using AI. So I think that, I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for them. But I would say our framework is that if we're not teaching them the ethical frameworks to work from and to find their own voice in this, then we're doing them a disservice as they're going out into the workforce.
Yeah, and we always ask the why, right? Why do you want to do that? What learning objective are you trying to match actually by introducing that AI technology that you want to do? What are the reasons? So we are not afraid of that difficult conversation and tell faculty, no, we don't think that actually that will work for you. Maybe you should be looking at something else different. Maybe you should be looking at how you're redesigning your lesson activities. And then we work together to make sure that, we have, be able to integrate together with Alex's team, but we fundamentally, as an instructional designer working within IT, we always ask the why. Why do you want to do that? And we don't just say yes.
And I think at the end of the day, our students want to know the why too. Why did you choose to teach and do it that way? And we have to be okay with explaining that. So I think that why is so spot on.
I'd like to thank the panel for their insights.